Okay, we can start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's Scrutiny Children's Services Review Group. We don't have a huge agenda tonight, but we do have some members that need to leave the meeting relatively expediently. So I'll run quite quickly through the housekeeping details and the preamble. So just a reminder that the meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. A recording of the public parts of the meeting will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Remote participants joining the meeting using Teams, please turn your cameras on and use the hands up icon to indicate a question or comment. Turn microphones on to speak and off when finished. In-person attendees, please remember to switch microphones on when speaking and speak directly into the microphone and turn off when finished. Attendees, please also make sure you switch off your mobile phones or put them on the silent mode. If you need to take a call, please leave the room. Okay, so moving on to the first item of the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Any apologies?
Sorry about that, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Waheed.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2 of the agenda, which is to confirm the minutes of the last meeting on the 11th of January. Any comments on the minutes? Any corrections? No? So those minutes can be confirmed. Okay. Moving on to item 3, disclosures of interest. I would like to declare that I am a governor of Summaries Junior School. Dr. Al-Ramahi, would you like to declare your usual interests as governor of Mead Primary School and chair governor of Grasmere Nursery School?
Thank you, Chair. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Keynes, would you like to declare your usual interest as Queen Elizabeth High School governor and the virtual school governor? Some of the microphones don't seem to be working. Try that one. A yes or no will do.
Yeah, declare an interest in that.
Great. Okay, so that's a yes. Councillor Malcolm, do you want to declare the ACE interest? Yep, that's a yes. Okay, thank you. Any other interests to be declared? No, great. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is urgent business. Nothing has been brought to my attention? No. Okay, no urgent business. Item 5, references from committees of other bodies.
None, Chair.
None, thank you. Item 6, the Chair's update. Only the one thing to mention that we did agree to have a regular item on these meetings, being these updates from the school improvements plan. I've been notified that there's no updates to present at the meeting today, so that item will obviously be continued at the next meeting, but there won't be a presentation at this meeting. Okay, so that moves us on to the main agenda. We've agreed that as some of the reporting officers need to leave relatively early, we are going to shift the agenda slightly and take item 8 first, which is the Children and Young People's Mental Health Services, CAMS, East London Foundation report, which is on pages 53 to 75 of your agenda. Yeah. Good point. Can I just ask the reporting officers just to check that just do a quick sound check on your report on your microphones, because some of them don't seem to be working.
It worked early now. Sorry? I
Okay, so it seems only my microphone is working at the moment, just some technical difficulties. Okay, just a slight technical hitch at the moment with the microphones. Only mine seems to be working.
Chair. It's working. Well done.
Good. Okay, we've at least got some of them working now.
Hello. Is that better?
Great. Good. Technical difficulty resolved. Sorry for that slight hitch. So we'll just move on to, as I mentioned earlier, item 8, which is with the CAMS team. Thank you.
I don't know if people want to ask questions or they want us to go through the brief presentation ourselves. Should we first introduce ourselves?
Yeah. Perhaps introduce yourselves, and if you could perhaps give a quick top level, I guess, overview, and then we'll proceed to questions. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Linda Hurst. I'm the General Manager for Luton CAMS owned by Elft.
Sorry, I don't think that one's working. Perhaps if you're speaking to, yeah.
Sorry, my name is Linda Hurst. I'm the General Manager for Luton CAMS and the County-wide Eating Disorder Services for Children.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Mark van Roosmalen, Consultant Clinical Psychologist and Psychological Therapies Lead for Luton and South Bedfordshire CAMS.
I'll just introduce. Is it working? Can you hear me? No.
Use this one.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Elliott, Consultant in Public Health for Luton Borough Council, Lead for Children and Young People.
We did share a brief presentation, which is very much just giving a summary of where we are as a service. We are following, if you go to the second slide, we are following the National Thrive model, where really the principles of Thrive is a needs-based service offer, where we offer episodic care from briefer forms of support in early intervention care to more multidisciplinary medium to longer term work, and which can also result in inpatient treatment too. We are working towards very much an integrated mental health offer, and we can say a bit more about that. What iThrive also offers is an opportunity to speak a common language with all our partners, including third sector and other partners offering emotional well-being and mental health support, but also a language that can also be commonly used with schools and other frontline providers. And it's really based on an early intervention and prevention approach that is a resilience-based approach rather than an illness or deficit model, which includes looking at whole community resilience and co-production of services. Actually, co-production runs throughout all our services up to our inpatient services and is a key principle of ELFT. So the first two quadrants, which is giving advice and getting help, the way that our services are constructed, you can think of it as a donut, where the outer ring of the donut is all our CAMS access services that work with all our frontline partners. So we've got mental health support teams and school liaison teams working in all 60 schools provisions and some of the alternative provisions, where all schools have a link clinician that can offer both whole school approaches and whole community approaches together with targeted interventions with children, young people and families. We've got a primary care access services, which has got a link clinician in every GP practice in Luton, and we have a family partnership link and embedded clinician too. We're also looking to recruit have a clinician embedded in the youth partnership service, the multi-agency service too. So that is the outer ring where we really are embedded in the community with our community partners. And then the inner ring really is our multidisciplinary teams, which is an emotional and behavioral team, an adolescent mental health team working with more severe mental health challenges, a county-wide eating disorders team. And what's new and very exciting is that our Children Looked After team has now become county-wide too, to include Luton. So we're in the process of developing a much closer and more comprehensive partnership with Luton Borough Council Children's Services and Children Looked After Services, which is just very good news, firstly for children, young people and families in Luton, but it's also something we've been looking forward to for a while. Is there anything to add?
Just to add to that, some of you may have seen in the press, we finally opened the inpatient unit for adolescents last Monday, the 20th of February, which is sited at the back of the Luton and Dunstable Hospital. This is long overdue. It's currently an 8-bedded unit, and there will be a more formal opening later on this year. But we've already admitted 2 patients to that, and we're looking to repatriate young people who have been based in inpatient units around the country. And it's really exciting for both Bedfordshire, Luton and Milton Keynes that we've finally got an inpatient unit local to meet the local needs of the young people and their families.
So I think the key thing is a very comprehensive stepped care model of care for children, young people and families, depending on what their needs are. We also have an intensive home treatment team to try and prevent young people from having to go into the inpatient unit, a comprehensive crisis pathway and service linked in for extended hours and weekends at A&E. And we also accept self-referrals from young people, from parents, which can be through a phone call where the clinician of the day will sit down and complete the form with the parent or the young person. There is also, our principle is also there is no wrong front door. So through schools, through GP practices, self-referral, through our single point of access, which we do together with our family, our early help partners, and with our 2 third sector partners, Chums and Toko. We've got one single point of entry, and there we decide where the best pathway will be for our families. So I don't know if people have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah. So Councillor Moles. Yeah.
I would like to ask the question, as we all know, it's very difficult to get appointments to see a GP these days. Does the same apply to your service? That because during COVID and obviously the rough times, 1 or 2 people have come to me with concern. Okay, they have eventually been seen, but sometimes it's 2 weeks before a child is seen by a doctor or get an appointment, which is very disconcerting, because when a child has a mental issue, it really needs to be got immediately. And I know during COVID there was all sorts of problems with your health and everybody else's, but an awful lot of children fell in the big hole during that time.
I mean, we stayed open for the whole of the pandemic to see children, young people face to face, and obviously we had to prioritize the most risky children and young people to see them face to face. We do think we are accessible, which is proven
I
by
was
the
just going
data.
to say, I mean, our key performance indicator is for children to be seen within 11 weeks, but 11 weeks. But our young people are triaged within 5 days of the referral being received. So they're seen. The referral is triaged for risk at the day it actually arrives. So obviously a child can be seen the same day, if the risk is so great. But within 5 working days, that child will have a triage assessment, which generally over the telephone in the first instance, and then they will be seen within that 11-week period. The majority, 78% of our young people, are seen within 3 to 4 weeks for their initial assessment.
And those for routine. Our emergency assessments are seen on the day. Urgent assessments are seen, we try to see them within 24 hours or at least 48 hours, depending on the triage with the young person and the parent and the urgency that we assess it to be.
The 11 weeks concerns me quite a lot because sometimes children are in a dreadful state before the parents can actually understand what's going on, and if you put 11 weeks onto that, it becomes sometimes suicidal, doesn't it? I've just got very concerned because as a counsellor, I've got quite a few phone calls during that time. And by the time they rang me, they were being seen. But it was a time that they actually sat there and felt that they'd got no help at all. But, is the system improving? That's basically what I'd love to hear.
I think, as I was just saying, that's the maximum time to wait. The majority of our young people are seen within 4 weeks. They do have this triage at the very beginning. Some work, it actually goes on behind the scenes, i.e. talking with the parents before the child is actually seen face to face. We've thrived, we pride ourselves on, even through the pandemic, continuing to see children face to face. Some of our young people still prefer to be seen on screen. We do offer a service out of hours for crisis and home treatment, which is until 9 o'clock Monday to Friday, and from 10 o'clock till 8 o'clock Saturdays and Sundays for those young people, particularly in crises.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Malcolm?
Thank you. I was interested that you're from public health. Yeah, so I guess I'd be interested to hear your reflections, maybe collectively, maybe just from you, whatever's appropriate, in terms of how a public health approach can be taken alongside CAMHS, which traditionally, I think in all of our minds would be, a medical approach for the individual, and what you think the benefits of that might be. And then I think I've got a related question as well. But I'd be really interested to hear how that's going, because I think it could be really powerful and good to take a public health approach to mental health.
And I think we absolutely do take a public health approach. I work very closely with Mark, with Linda, with the CAMHS team. We are developing our public health, mental health strategy for Luton that will be coming out in the next couple of months. So that takes that prevention approach as well. And we're very much along the lines that the earlier we can intervene in a young person's issue. And that's why when Mark was saying we work with schools, we work at that early stage intervention, as well as obviously CAMHS taking along that when we're looking at getting help and getting more help, that's what we have to work across. So we work in partnership. We absolutely take that approach. We're looking very much around developing trauma-informed approaches, developing resilience, really working with schools. We do a lot of work with schools, and Mark has been working on a training programme for schools. So just to give you an idea that partnership approach is really strong, and we are, really strong partners in this. The I Thrive model, I think that has that holistic approach that resonates with our approach in public health, as well as with the CAMHS approach.
I think to give you an example of a public health approach we are taking, a population health approach we are taking, one of our mental health support teams which really has got the ultimate aim of reducing health and mental health inequalities. In our South neighbourhood, we are in the middle of doing what's called a quality improvement program with the community, asking citizen stakeholders what they want from us in terms of their mental health needs and how we can help them develop their mental health assets, not just improve their mental health equalities. And we're in the middle of a process, and we're having a big stakeholder there on the 9th of March, where we're actually going to bring all the different services together to see, because we've had a big survey with all citizen stakeholders, and we've asked children, young people, parents, community leaders, and school staff to ask them what they want from us as a public health, as a population health approach. And we're going to have a large stakeholder day to coordinate and integrate what we all do. And then there will be feedback loops with the communities to see what we're doing and what they think of what we're providing.
Related question, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's good because it's about how we can support social structures or society to be shaped differently so that people have positive mental health rather than needing to intervene. But there will always be need for intervention, I suppose, with individuals when they're in difficult circumstances, but trying to create a culture socially that is beneficial to positive mental health. And I guess it sounds like you are doing that stuff, and thinking along those lines seems like a powerful way to think about it. I guess my related question is, to get to it, what might your contribution to Luton being a child-friendly town look like in terms of some of that social structuring of society, provision of services, or whatever? What do you think that might look like, I suppose, would be my question.
I don't have the theory of change in front of me that actually the citizen stakeholders helped us to develop, but we are linking very explicitly with child-friendly town, because what we do need to address is the social determinants of inequality and mental health issues, and that we see ourselves as contributing to that, helping communities to be healthy, to have a voice, to listen to them, and to respond to what they say their needs are. So to really take a needs-based service to another level, that it's co-produced with the community, but also to work together with Marmot Town, Luton 2040, with Child Friendly Town, that we actually work together on addressing the social determinants of mental health, both proximal, because obviously the distal is something that politically is done, but the more proximal issues that impact on families and improving relationships.
Just wanted to add as well, there's a lot of work that we're doing around reducing stigma, because I think what we find actually is that it's not that the mental health people don't know there's a mental health, they have a mental health issue, or the family don't know. It's addressing those kind of societal, cultural barriers as well. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of work at the moment to normalise talking about mental health, both with adults and children. There's a big campaign going on for adults as well as children, and we're trying to bring those together.
That's good. Just one quick thing. I just wonder, because I think the trauma-informed practice, like training with school leaders and teachers, is good, because that holds that context in a trauma-informed way. I just wonder whether there's scope for kind of more community-based trauma-informed learning to occur that would help, families to understand, okay, we've been through trauma and we're going to have to try and engage with each other like this to support each other, because it's going to have shaped us in the ways that we respond to each other. I don't know whether there is stuff like that exists, but it strikes me that we're kind of providing it for professionals, but not necessarily providing it within the community.
Do you just think to
Yes, I mean, the training that we are developing on mental health is not a diagnostic and symptom-led training. It's about a trauma-informed training, which is about relationships and resilience and intergenerational health and community health. So very much we would want to also reach out to parents, children and young people and share that with them and develop workshops with them. Because yes, it has to be about the community being informed, not just professionals. We certainly think we've got an important role to play in that with partners who are doing that too.
Just to add as well, we haven't talked about family hubs, but that is coming in to talk about early years. starting off with 0 to 5s, moving to 0 to 19s, that has a focus really at its very centre around supporting both perinatal and infant mental health. So really bringing in those strategies really early on in a family, when the children are very, very young, for that understanding. So to kind of, when we talk about disseminating that training, all the people within family helps will be trained to deliver that approach as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Pett?
Yeah, well, part of my question was about the family support. Well, it's obviously been answered. But how are you monitoring this process?
Well, the broader process of the quality improvement process or of the interventions we offer?
The overall process, I think.
Yes. Well, the quality improvement program is everything that we're going to be doing is going to be evaluated and monitored. So there's going to be performance indicators for everything that we do. All the interventions we do, whether it's training, it's for teachers, whether it's all our clinical interventions we offer at various levels for children, young people and families, are all subjected to clinical outcomes and performance measures, and we do report that. Also, even if we do drop-ins for parents, we ask them to complete evaluation forms, and so that we report that back. All our schools teams have to report nationally to the national mental health in schools team initiative at the Anna Freud and at the Department of Health.
So the whole process, are you looking at other authorities as well?
Councillor Pett, sorry, could you speak into the microphone? We can't hear. Thank you.
Yeah, are you working with other authorities on this? Because, there's lots of ideas going around on how to do this.
Yes. Yes, I mean, we look nationally and internationally. The Quality Improvement Program is actually an international program that ALFT has bought as a very structured and formalized way of service improvement using theory of change and using the principles of co-production. So firstly, that yes, and secondly, we certainly look nationally and regionally at all our partners and what we can learn, and the wider evidence base, not just only the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, which is our one sort of national body looking at health and mental health evidence. So yes, we certainly do that, but we also want to develop local practice-based evidence. So we want to evidence and collate what we do and see and ask what works and what doesn't.
Thank you. Dr. Al-Ramati, that's a question.
Thank you very much for that report, which is very welcome.
Sorry, we can't hear you. Can you check your microphone, maybe?
Is it working now? Still?
Sorry, we still can't hear you, Dr. Al-Ramati.
I can hear you online, but I don't know if they can hear.
Oh, you can hear me.
Yeah, I can
That's
hear you.
interesting.
I don't know.
Okay, we're just going to check to see whether there's a technical issue, because it seems we can't hear anybody who's joining via Teams at the moment.
I was going to say, I wonder if it's a Teams issue.
Possibly, yes. Interesting if you can hear, because obviously I think you'll be speaking, Alison, at some point, you and Abby, right? So if you can't be heard, then
yeah, potentially. So I've got my officer there, so it
can you email a question?
Yeah.
To you?
Yeah, we'll see whether we can resolve the technical difficulties, but if not, we'll see whether we can use that option. Yeah.
Thank you. I think earlier the chair mentioned that they have technical problems there, and so it seems that they switched off the incoming voice from Teams, replaced it with some.
Yeah, we're having a day where technology isn't our friend today.
Oh, exactly.
I-
You could ask
Yeah. Dr. Al-Ramadi, would you mind putting your question into the chat box for now? Thank you.
Working again. Working again now. Oh, we've started again now.
Can you hear us now? No. Don't know if anything's happening, is it? We can't hear anything, can we?
No, we can't. We can't.
Sorry, don't want to hear that.
Hi everyone. Just for those on the MS Teams at the moment, we're still trying to resolve the technical difficulties. Yeah, sign language. No. Oh, great. Okay, so we can see the question now. My eyesight isn't quite good enough to actually read it. Okay, I think I can read that now. So the question from Dr. Mohammed Al-Ramahi is, I can read that. Thank you for the report, very useful. Can I please ask to what extent the demography of Luton and the super diversity of our local community has been taken into account in the building up of this report?
We didn't specifically include data on ethnicity in the report, but as a service, diversity is and achieving access for all the communities in Luton is a central aim for our service. And we're actually working with public health very closely on that, both in terms of studies that we are participating in to find out the views of various ethnicities, but together with also our, specifically our community teams. One of our quality improvement mini projects within this larger community project is going to be actually trying to engage much more intensively with one particular community and ask them what they want from us and what they want from our services, and to co-produce that response. So it is being more accessible to all the communities in Luton is one of our central aims. And we know we're not there yet, and we can do better.
If I could just add there, we currently have just over 1,200 open cases for Luton, which includes our eating disorder service. 53% of those are white British. The other 47% are made up from, obviously, you know, the diverse town that we work in. And I would be able to provide it broken down by ethnicity and by age, by gender, etc., if you would find that helpful.
Okay, great. So I think that's resolved Dr. Al-Ramahi's question, and he thanks you for the responses, best I can see. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this report? No? Okay, so thanks very much for the report and the time, and for your patience with our technical difficulties. Thank you. During the meeting, we've just been joined by Councillor Donilon, and Councillor Donilon just had a comment regarding the minutes. If we can just record a correction that Councillor Donilon declared a disclosure of interest in relation to being a governor of Woodland School? Woodland School. Thank you. So subject to that amendment, those minutes are confirmed. Moving on to the next item in the agenda, which is item 7, which is the Virtual School Annual Report. That's on pages 17 to 52 of your agenda pack, and that's in the capable hands of Matthew Sims. And actually, yeah, before I hand over to Matthew Sims, can I just check everybody on the call that if you could give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Great. Okay. Thank you. Matthew, thank you.
Okay, if it's okay with all of you, I'll just go through a few highlights of the report, and then do please feel free to ask any questions. I'll start off with, we had a very positive feedback from Ofsted, as you'll see, which was really good, and it was really positive about the team and the work we're doing, how we care for the well-being of our children, and we're proactive. We give the right support at the right time. You may wish to note that we have more children educated out of borough than in borough. That's been the increasing trend for the last few years. So it's 52% of our looked after children are educated out of borough, 48% in borough. I am pleased that we have a higher percentage of children attending good or outstanding schools now. That's up to 92%. So that's an increase on previous years. And I do think that gives our children an excellent chance of doing well at school if they're attending good or outstanding schools. I think that's a very important stat that needs to be noted. Alongside that, there was also a reduced number of, not reduced, but a small number, 11% of children underwent an educational move. And that's quite a small number. It has been higher in previous years. Again, that helps the stability of our young people, children, which is crucial to their educational skills. As in previous years, we have approximately 25%, it's 27 now, children who have an EHCP plan. And you can see a breakdown of year groups through that. We also have some young people, 21, on part-time timetables. That's something we pay close attention to. We want all our children to be in school for every school day, but some of them cannot manage in a whole school mainstream environment, and they sometimes need to be placed in an alternative provision. We have a very good, varied alternative provisions in Luton. It's slightly more mixed in our outer borough authorities. I'd like it to be noted there were no permanent exclusions during the academic year for our children and young people in care. We had a high percentage of PEPs completed, that's personal education plans, that they are done termly with a high rate of attendance by the virtual school. In other authorities, a lot of virtual schools don't put such an emphasis on their own staff attending the PEP. They're attended by schools and social workers, not so much by virtual school team members. There's also a focus there on attainment. You will see that we had, as we looked after children at Key Stage 2 at the SATs. You'll see a summary there for you. We are at reading, we're just 1% below the national expectations. In maths, it's slightly lower, 37% compared to national expectations, 44. I hasten to add, we do put tuition in at year 6, and now we've improved that to year 5. So all our looked after children in year 5 and 6 are offered tuition in maths and in reading and writing to give them that boost coming up to their SATs year. We had young people taking GCSEs. We had, there's a summary table there for you that do feel free to ask any questions on. We also have we place an emphasis on tuition in the virtual school, as I've said, for years 5 and 6. We're also improving that to years 10 this year. That started this term, and also all those young people in year 11 are offered tuition as well. There's a summary of all our results at the end in the appendices of the report, if you want to look at those. We have a very strong governing body, which includes the former head of the Education Service, John Wrigglesworth. We meet termly. We have some heads of local schools on the governing body, and there's a strong emphasis on challenge and support as well. We were delighted this last year we were able to hold our celebration events again. So we had the Bright Stars Awards for 16 to 25-year-olds held at the university in the summer, and a very successful Barney Wild Awards event held at November at Stopsley Baptist Church, which were delighted that so many senior officers and members could attend, and that went really well. One area of the virtual school that's been extended in the last few years is that the DFE would like us to focus on children with a social worker or who are on child protection plans, and we have a number of initiatives going ahead in Luton. We're working intensively with 6 schools to put together plans to improve the attendance, the behaviour and the attainment of children on education plans. Excuse me. We've put some attachment and trauma training in place for safeguarding leads, and we're also going to be doing that for social workers as well in the next few weeks. We've run a really successful course on supporting emotional literacy support assistants, so that's 30 learning support assistants based in Luton schools who now have a really good understanding of the emotional needs of these children and young people, and they're able to support across the borough now in a far greater way than they were before. We've also got a survey going on of the emotional well-being of our children and young people to measure the impact of some of these measures that we're putting in place. I think that concludes the summary of some of my report. If there's any questions on the first half, do please ask any questions.
Any questions on Councillor Pett?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, how many of our children are being sent out of the borough for schooling?
Sorry, could you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
It's 123, Councillor Petts, that are out of borough. I wouldn't say they're sent out of borough, but if they're in a placement with foster carers that is out of borough, then normally they attend school out of borough.
Councillor Pett, sorry, could you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
It's just that I know of a couple of instances where they've been sent up to Milton Keynes for schooling by taxi.
From Luton?
Yeah, from Luton.
Okay, I can have a look at that. I'm sure there's a reason. So you think they're sent from Luton to Milton Keynes? Are they in a special school?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think Damien wants to come in on this point.
I was just going to ask the councillor if they were attending a special school, because that might have been the explanation, but yeah. I think that sounds like it's the case.
Like it is.
Yeah.
And that would probably be because we couldn't find provision for them in Luton, or that they may have specific needs that can only be addressed at a special school out of borough, because we only have a limited number of special schools within the authority.
I don't think we have any other questions. Just look at the screen. Yeah, so nothing at this stage. Sorry, Councillor Malcolm, I think do you have your hand? Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Had you finished your whole report?
Well, there's a bit more post-16 vision I can talk about, if that would be.
I'll wait until you finish.
Okay, that's fine. So there's a section there on post-16 provision and our number of NEETs. Our number of NEETs are doing well from the 16 to 17-year-old bracket on a national level. As children get older, from 18 to 25, we have reduced our rates of NEETs there. We put a number of things, initiatives in place to try and reduce that NEET, which is too high, I think, at the moment. So at the moment, we've started a drop-in at Tocco, which is just up the road, and every Monday afternoon we have two of the team there who are there to support any young person that wants to try and find a job or education or training. We also have a NEET panel that runs every 6 weeks that I chair alongside the 18+ team manager. So we focus on 6 children at each of these panels and work together really closely to try and put anything in place that's missing, anything we can do to try and get them into education, employment and training. And this normally means a visit to see the young person or to meet them and to try and see what's needed and what needs to be put in place to try and get them into work as soon as possible. We're also working with a company called SSG, who are based in Bedford, and they've offered 30 traineeships and offers of 2-week employment with local employers in Luton. So we've got some of our young people signed up to that already. We want more young people to get signed up to that. That's our task for the next few months. And we're also recruiting an employment coordinator who will give us further emphasis and strength in working with local employers to try and get young people into education, employment and training. Okay, that's probably it.
So, Councillor Malcolm, you wanted to come in there, yeah?
Cool. Yeah, there were lots of things that are interesting in the report. I think the number of temporary exclusions, so fixed-term exclusions, and then the extent to which, because you talked about it, it wasn't detailed in the report, but it was kind of underlying the surface, the extent to which alternative provision is used for children in care. I don't know, is it quite, because there are a few things that were talked about that this happens quite a lot, but it wasn't kind of quantified how much it happened, like what proportion of the children in care population that was actually the case for. So I'd be interested to know how many children in care on part-time timetables do end up in AP. If you're on a part-time timetable, does that mean you're in alternative provision the rest of the time, or?
Yeah, usually part-time.
Sorry, can you turn your microphone on? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, if you're on a part-time timetable, some of the time you're in mainstream school still, usually. Some of the time you're in alternative provision. And it's our job to try and review that every few weeks, to try and challenge the school to make sure they should be having that young person back into school, how they're doing in the alternative provision, and what we can do to try and increase their chances of getting back into school, because we know their results will not be as good in alternative provision most of the time. But for some of the young people, they simply cannot cope in the mainstream. In a huge school with too much going on, they cannot manage that at certain stages of their lives. And it's our job to try and get them at a stable place. So we also have our specialist mental health clinicians. We've got at one point 2 of them employed within the virtual school, which is quite unique in virtual school across the country. In fact, that's one of our strengths in helping carers as well to try and get the young person on a stable footing to get them back into school. I think, sorry, I'm not sure I've actually answered your question, which was how many.
No, I think that's.
So
I think you
find
kind of
out.
said all essentially, and I think actually that maybe to me, I don't know whether to everyone else, but to me that's a better reflection than because the impression I got from what I read was some students are just in some of the time and not the rest of the time, whereas actually they're in mainstream some of the time, and if they're not in mainstream, they're probably in alternative provision. Yeah. And I guess I'm encouraged to hear that you're always challenging schools on whether they can seek to reintegrate pupils. I think my perspective on pupils being out of mainstream in alternative provision is it's an opportunity to draw staff from the mainstream school into better relationship with that young person so that transition back can happen.
Yeah. Sorry, can you turn your microphone on?
Sorry. Most of these schools in Luton are very good at keeping tabs on their young people in the alternative provision. Oh, so I've got it on. Is that all right? Okay.
Can I ask just a couple?
Before you ask your next question, I think Damien wanted to come on this point as well.
Can I just check, Councillor, did you say, were you asking the question about how many fixed term exclusions there'd been?
It was about the number of young people in alternative provision, but it sounds like all of those on part-time timetables would be. So I think I had a suggestion. I'm just trying to remember all the things that occurred to me. So there was, the post-16 stuff that you were talking about on the Behaviour Inclusion and Wellbeing Advisory Board. A very long name, but you know what I mean. I think it was last year, because I've not been on it since September, but there was quite a bit of project work that was undertaken around post-16 transitions. I think it was more for young people from pupil referral unit context, but it strikes me that that kind of area of work will likely be very similar to the work that you're exploring around post-16 stuff. So I wonder whether tying in with the work that was undertaken there, I can't remember the names of the people who led on it, unfortunately, although Chris Day, you've started attending? Oh, good. Okay.
I'm not, yeah. Anyway, yes, so I've just started attending that board, so I will try and check up on that.
Yeah, so you'll be able to work it out possibly from previous minutes, but there was definitely a subgroup of people who are working quite intently around post-16 stuff and seem to be doing some quite effective work. Having responsibility for, or some level of kind of responsibility in terms of keeping track of things in terms of children in need and children and child protection plans seems like it would be good in the report, I think, to quantify the scope of that population, because I imagine that's a lot more children than you're currently responsible for. Yeah. It has.
So, yeah, sorry, that's about 700 in Luton. Yeah.
I guess just keeping track of that data is a challenge enough in itself.
Yeah.
And then I appreciate that asking schools for what they can do raises it in their consciousness as like, actually, we need to keep an eye on this group of young people and try and support them, because often their outcomes are poorest, followed by those who've been in care for a short time, followed by those who have been in care for a long term, followed by those who have not been in care. I think my only other comment was there was quite a lot of stuff that your team were doing that was kind of psychologically oriented, so tying with the educational psychology team and similar, and counselling services and stuff like that. I just wondered whether there was a role for youth work approaches, or whether you had any of that within your team, or whether you might be open to that. And I guess declare an interest here, because I work at the university in the Childhood and Youth Studies team, and one of my colleagues runs a youth work masters where students go and are becoming professional youth workers but need a placement during that. And I wondered whether someone from that course could have a placement with your team to essentially see what could be gained from taking a youth work approach with young people that you're working with, because that doesn't seem to be something that you're doing. It seems to be you're doing a lot of kind of educational psychology and that kind of approach.
Yeah,
but I wonder whether a youth work approach might be interesting as something to explore, to see whether it brings.
I'd be really
benefits.
interested in that. Andy, are there any, if you could send me an email or names or something, that'd be really helpful. We could have a look at that.
Yeah, it would only be if there was a student who didn't have a placement already, then there might be an opportunity to come and do something with you. But I can tie you up with my colleague who leads the course.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So just to remind everyone to turn your microphone off before you talk, and then turn it off afterwards, because that way the images will match who's talking into the microphone. Any other questions from the floor? Is there somebody on the screen? Sorry. Okay. Are virtual school pupils disadvantaged in any way by attending virtually, especially for the age group identified in the reports? Can you perhaps articulate the steps and resources that might be needed to mitigate any risk in the future?
So I need to stress that our virtual school pupils don't attend school virtually. They're all placed in schools around in Luton and out of borough. So we don't have children that attend school virtually. Some have virtual tuition. Some have tuition online, and some have it face to face. But all our children are attending schools in person, so they're not attending virtually. So I think that probably answers your question.
Yep. It says thank you. Yep. Okay. Any other questions on this report? Councillor Moles?
I'd just like to...
Sorry, Councillor Moles, would you mind directing the microphone a bit closer to yourself? Thank you. Cheers.
I'd just like to ask, in the tables of the English, maths, etc., there's a number of students where there's no data. What is the reason for that? I'm looking at page 50 and 48. It starts 44. It starts through the years. Yes. Why is there no data? Is there a reason for it? Please, on page 44.
So there's data and then there's a chart next to it. Data there.
Yeah, so I think that's on page 43 of our agenda pack, but it's page 26 and onwards, I think, of your report. So, for example, year 1 to 9 children reading, it says 44%, there's no data.
Thank you. Sorry.
Microphone, please, Cesar.
It's on. It is on. Is that better? Yeah, can you hear me? Good. Right. Sorry, that would mean that there was no data submitted by the schools to us as a virtual school. That means we weren't provided with the data for one reason or another. That we can chase up, well, we normally do chase up if we're not given with data.
Just as a follow-up, I mean, is there any obligation on the schools to provide this data?
Yes, they should. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And that covers both, I guess, state schools and the academies and as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I will check up on that. And
Any other questions, comments? No. I think Abby Preston has written a comment. It could be where children haven't been in the school long enough. Is another example. So if the children haven't been in the school long enough, yeah. Thank you.
And it may also be, thank you, Abby, it may also be that they've not been in care for very long. So they've only just come into care, so there's not much data on them.
Great. I don't think there are any further questions. So thank you for the report. And again, thank you to you and everyone else for your patience with the technical difficulties we've had. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is item 9, the Children's Services Review Group Draft Work Programme. Moving forward. Sorry. Oh, okay. Just to advise that the dates that are mentioned in this agenda pack, which is on page 76 to 91, I think they're only provisional, right? They're only provisional because the dates haven't been confirmed yet, because they go into the next administration, shall we say? So it might not affect us. Okay, so. So the next meeting is the 21st of June, tentatively. So we have the standing item of Children's Services Improvement Plan, plus followed by a number of other items, which I think possibly some of which could be moved into a later meeting, because that would be quite a busy agenda. Councillor Keynes?
I was just going to say, the 21st of June, it may not affect any of us, but seems an awful lot on there for the new administration, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll probably look at possibly moving one or two of these items into one of the later meetings, but we've perhaps got some time to agree that with the officers and whomever the chair might be.
You could pad it out and let the other lot sort it out.
Yeah. I think unless there are any other comments about this group. Oh, sorry, Damien Alcock, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to make the point that the adoption annual reports on both the June and the September agendas. So I was expecting it to be on the June one, but not the September. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so that will be amended, thank you. Councillor Petts?
Yeah, we haven't had any feedback recently on unregistered schools in Luton. It might be an idea to get something back on that, please. Thanks, Councillor Petts. That's an important point. Yeah, perhaps we can add that to the forward plan and include that in one of the upcoming meetings. And yeah, we've got a thumbs up from Alison Parkinson as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. We don't. Any other comments under this item? Oh, Abby Preston. So Abby's saying we can do that as part of the June meeting, where Abby's lead is attending. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. I think Abby's typing something else as well.
No, she's not.
Oh, she's not. Okay. Okay. Anything under Councillor Donilon? Yeah.
something, please, because 21st of June will not affect me. So I'm very keen to know, it's in the minutes about the pause programme, and it was 7 weeks ago that we had our meeting, and I'm just wondering if there's any update about how we're getting on with our funding, our 300,000 to try and keep children in their birth families, please.
I don't have a specific update, Councillor. I'll just remind you, it's not our funding. It's regional funding, and we've